If you're tired of hearing the same old basic mindset and motivational fluff talk, you've come to the right show. Welcome to Project Me with Tiffany Carter, the podcast, where we dish on everything from managing that crazy brain of yours to manifesting abundance to my straightforward, actionable steps that will make you major money online. Now, I'm not your typical multimillionaire entrepreneur. It takes a small village to keep my anxiety and depression in check. I'm inherently disorganized with an intense obsession with office supplies. Your girl here is a digital marketing content expert who's generated over $200 million in sales. I promise by tuning in twice a week, you will get a much needed refreshing dose of truth, clarity, and cash-making advice. Now let's get to it. What up, my people, my posse, my fellow crazies? I'm your host, Tiffany Carter, and this episode, When Nothing Feels Like It's Working, is designed for you to come back to again and again and again, and also to share with anyone else that you know in your life that is facing a spot where they feel like they just keep bumping against it, and it doesn't feel to them like whatever they're after, whatever goal they're trying to achieve, whatever feeling they're trying to get to, whatever core desire they're trying to reach, just keeps seeming further and further and further away. Share this episode with them. Share this in your Instagram stories and your Facebook stories. Share it with your audience, because there's no way that there isn't at least 30% of the people in there and 30% of the people you know who are feeling that way, if not more than that right now. And you want to know why? Because this is part of the process. There is no way to not feel like this. When you actually care, when you give a damn about whatever it is you're trying to accomplish or achieve, there is always going to be a point where you don't feel like it's happening, where you don't feel like it's working, when you even start going, maybe this isn't meant for me, maybe this isn't ever going to happen. That's normal. This could be in your business when you're launching something and you're like, God, no one's signing up, no one's signing up, no one's signing up. Could be that zone. It could be maybe you're dating. It's like, God, there's no good people left out there. Everyone's playing games. What's going on? And just when you meet someone who seems like a great person, then they end up being a narcissist. It could be with maybe something happening with your kids or even with your weight. And you feel like you're doing all these things and not progressing as you would like, or it feels much harder than you wanted it to be, and it's taking way longer than you think it should. This is normal. And when anyone says this to me, whether it is a client, whether it's one of you beautiful longtime listeners or new listeners to me, I always say, and that is exactly how I want you to feel right now, because that means you actually really want it. That means you actually really care. This is proof when you get to this point of upset and discouraged and frustrated and annoyed and impatient, shows me that you actually really want the thing. And it's more than just money. It's more than just stuff like that. Ego stuff, notoriety, success, saying that you did it. There's a deeper reason you want it. So that's one, that's great news. Two, that means that you have a signal that you need to take a look at something. Because that doesn't mean that what you're actually tangibly doing isn't working. It could also be your perception and how you've set up this expectation on what working looks like. Who in the hell are any of us to determine what working looks like? That's my coffee maker going off. And I really don't want it to, but it's all the way across the room. I'm not stopping this to go do that. It's one of those days where I need like definite extra caffeine. You know what I'm saying? Well, before I go into that rant, let me tell you something. Recently, I got stuck in not enoughness. For weeks, I got so fixated on everything that I don't have, that I haven't accomplished, stuff that still needs to be done. I got so riddled with anxiety of feeling totally behind, and time was going too fast for me to ever catch up. By now, I should have 50 million downloads of my podcast. What is wrong with you, Tiffany? Why isn't your book finished yet? You still haven't gotten blank done. What's wrong with you? You get the drift. And maybe you're beating yourself up right now, too, whether it's about some similar things or other things. This is the sign that you're not living in the present, in the now. So psychologists say living in the future causes anxiety and living in the past causes depression. I can fully attest to this. And by beating ourselves up, we're abandoning our growth. But guess what? We're also abandoning. We're abandoning God. We're abandoning the universe. We're abandoning spirit. We're abandoning all that we've been given and all that we have co-created in this lifetime. It's crazy. We're basically saying, hey, God, hey, universe, higher power, whatever. I'm not happy with this, how this is going. I planned it totally differently and have a very different time frame. And it's feeling much harder than I determined that it was going to feel. And I don't like it. And therefore, I'm going to declare it's not working. Who are we to declare something isn't working? And by the way, 99.9% of the time, shit's going to feel like it's not working right before it turns the corner and works. That's what happened with this podcast. And this isn't free to put on. The show, it's a lot of time, effort, energy, heart, creativity, which is why I say to you guys, please go leave a damn 5-star written Apple podcast review for the show. That truly is the best thing that you can do to be of service to this show and all the value that you get out of that. It takes 30 seconds. Like, you can go do this thing. I'd really appreciate it. Even if you don't listen on Apple, you're a Spotify person, or you listen on Amazon Music or one of the other platforms, still go do it. It really, truly goes a long way. If you're on Spotify or you also listen on Spotify, you can't leave a written review, but you can tap the 5 stars. And I'd appreciate that as well. But this show didn't feel like it was moving. And I didn't even have a wild expectation. It's not like I had some built up YouTube channel or some poppin' Instagram. I didn't have any of this stuff. I did it backwards from what most people do. It's not like I parlayed an audience from a blog into listening to a podcast. So I didn't have some insane expectation, but to say I didn't have one at all isn't true. I somehow came up with something that, God, it should be growing faster than this. Why isn't it growing faster? This shit's pretty good. And I'm like somewhat entertaining and I'm helpful. Wow. And I'm doing all the things and I'm pouring out my heart and soul and I'm really creating high value and I'm doing all the strategic things and this isn't happening fast enough. And then I started comparing and looking at other people whose stuff is, in my opinion, is nowhere near as good or as valuable, and their stuff was popping. I'm like, what am I doing wrong? And I had to have come to Jesus with myself or I would have quit. So I'd say the same thing to myself. Well, clearly I really wanted it to succeed and want it to succeed. Otherwise I wouldn't be so upset. And 2, who was I to determine it wasn't working? Well, like really, when you dissect it, and I'm just using myself as an example, it actually was working. The show was continuing to grow. It just wasn't growing as fast as my ego wanted it or what would have felt exciting and satisfying to me. But it was still building and growing. It was a slow build, but it was still going in the right direction. And things were still moving. So I was basically saying to the universe, I don't like your divine plan for me, and it doesn't feel good. And therefore, I'm going to dismiss you, God, universe, and say it's not working and not show any appreciation for what is working. And then my mood's going to spiral. Then I'm going to vomit that mood all over my podcast and the listeners, which in turn is going to stifle my creativity and my energy for this, which in turn is going to slow down the progress even further. And then I'm going to come back, by the way, and blame this back on you, God and universe. You see what I'm saying? It never feels like it's working until it works. But what is working? What is that definition? And go back and look. Oh, no one's, really following me. My audience isn't building on Instagram and no one's signing up for my things. Okay. So we can go, if it truly is no one and you've unpacked the facts and it really is no one, yeah, then we need to look at stuff. Then we need to be honest. How long have you been talking about the thing? How often have you put it out there? What energy have you been in when you've put it out there? Have you been sheepish about it? Have you been excited? Have you been speaking with conviction? Have you been clear? Have you been toe dipping on your business? Have you been trying to throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks, but yet expecting to have results as though you're working off a proven plan? I'm just saying. Listen, I can say this shit because I've done it. And that's why I'm always like, that's okay. You want to figure stuff out on your own, whatever it is you're wanting to do. You can do that. You can go to Google University. That's fine. But don't have some expectation that you're going to save time and have this insane momentum as though you're paying someone like me who's done it for all these years and has proven systems and has proven strategies, and you're having someone show you what the hell to do, right? You got to manage your own expectations with your stuff based on how much you're putting in. What blows my mind is when people want all-in results, yet they're putting in half-measure effort. So if you feel like nothing is looking, you've got to take also a true, honest inventory of yourself. Am I doing all-in effort, or am I doing half-measure effort, wanting all-in results? Am I trying to do some kind of a shortcut with my health? Am I trying to do some kind of a shortcut with my business? Am I trying to do some kind of a shortcut with my personal development growth? And then I'm getting pissed that I don't have the results of some of these other people who you don't know what they're doing behind the scenes. They could be doing all in effort. And now you're comparing yourself against someone who is being disciplined, who is hiring the people, who is taking the risk, who is being consistent. You see what I'm saying? But you are abandoning all that you have been given and all the progress that has been made by poo-pooing it, by saying, oh, that's not enough. That's, brushing it off. That's terrible. Imagine if you helped a friend move into their new house and you were helping them organize and put shit away and decorate. And then they said, you overheard them talking to someone else and they were like, oh my God, moving was so terrible. I really didn't have much help at all. My house is a total disaster and unorganized still. And I feel so overwhelmed and I feel so alone in all of this. And you heard that. You'd be like, it'd feel like shit. You'd be like, well, wait a second. That's not true. I helped you move and I organized the shit out of that kitchen and I even went and got you some cute throw pillows. That's what you're doing to yourself. You're discounting what you've done or you're minimizing it. And when we minimize that, we're beating ourselves down, and then you end up repelling more of the very thing you want. But when we acknowledge and celebrate what we have, we end up receiving more of it because you're in a different energy. That's how that works. So if you're in an acknowledging, celebrating energy for where you're at now, you're lighter, you're happier, you're less cunty, You're more inspired. You're more hopeful. You have a different energy about you, and that's the energy that ends up being magnetic to other people. That's the energy that opens up your portals of creativities and fresh ideas and clarity instead of the mental mess in your brain. And when you discount and abandon what you have accomplished so far and how far you have come and what you have done and what has grown in your business and your life, then you repel more of it because of the energetic state you end up in when you're in that low state. Yeah, but I don't have all the passive income I want, and I don't have millions in the bank like Tiffany, and I don't have tens and tens of thousands of followers like so-and-so, and I only had 2 people come to my live, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Well, that's like an Eeyore energy from Winnie the Pooh. It's what do you think you're going to attract in that energy, and what do you think you're going to be able to create out of that energy? Shit is what you're going to be able to create. So I want you to spend time, if you're in the thick of this, this needs to be your number one priority because everything stems from this. Everything stems from your current energetic state. And that doesn't mean you have to have rainbows boosting out of your ass. If that was the case, I would be definitely broke. But get into a better energetic state, not the low state. I'd rather you even be at neutral. Right? Where you're not feeling pulled down and you might not be yet lifted up, but at least you're at a neutral state. We're not causing more harm. We're not repelling, right? We got to get out of the gunk of all of it. So that's why I created the New Abundance Walk guided meditation series. It's a 3-part series and it's your season of abundance. Brand new audios for you to go on walks with. This is designed to get you into the abundance zone and shift that energy out of shit into a shining energy in 3 minutes or less. So even if you don't have time to listen to the full audio, or you can only listen to it in little bite-sized pockets of your day, completely fine with that. It will still work. And then I've included a bonus audio to address one of the lower level energy sucking, mind fucking thoughts that I know you have, which is why would someone hire me when they could hire someone who's more accomplished, who's more seasoned, who has more testimonials, who looks this way, who sounds this way, blah, 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 blah. And that's a bonus audio I've included. So these are all available for free instant download access. Swipe up. The link is in the show notes. You can also go to projectmewithtiffany.com/your season of abundance. The show notes is probably the easier way to go. And that's one tangible, real thing that you can commit to doing daily. I think you could give me 3 minutes and help shift you out of that. It actually is all working. This is part of it. You've just created a definition of what you feel working is supposed to look like. Part of the thing that's working is also the sticky periods that feel slow, that feel like you've gotten a setback, that feel like you want to zig and it's zagged. That actually is part of the process, is part of the journey of it working. That's why in a journey, right, there's hardship and then there's triumph and there's overcoming. And sometimes there's things that you're doing that don't work because they weren't supposed to work to begin with, and you're trying to put a square peg into a round hole, and the universe is trying to redirect you and you're not listening. There's a bunch of reasons for it. So allow yourself to really sink in and believe the thought of everything actually is working out in my favor for my best interest right now, whether it feels like it or not. And even the hard days, even the crap days, even the days where I'm losing my mind, everything is still working out for me because I'm being directed, I'm being guided, I'm being redirected, I'm being pushed, I'm being even kind of forced into a different way or trying a different thing, or the universe is wanting me to be in so much pain, so I actually ask for fucking help. There's about a gazillion reasons out there. But you can't have what's on the other side of the discomfort, the frustration, the unfulfillment, the pain. You can't have what's on the other side without going through it. You can't have the success. You can't have the millions. You can't have the lifestyle. You can't have the freedom. You can't have the love. You can't have all the stuff without navigating along the way and ending up tripping and falling over a pothole or two. It's impossible. I don't know any successful person who's had a straight line where there hasn't been shit along the way. It's part of it. So I need you to be in acceptance. This is part of the journey. I'm navigating it. And ask whatever your spirit guides are. If you talk to aliens, you talk to Buddha, you talk to God. I talk to everybody. I have a whole committee I talk to. Ask, right? Ask and you shall be given. Ask, please help me trust that everything is working in my favor right now. Please help me release my attachment to what I think it working should look like. Please help show me that this is working in my favor. Please make it clearer what I need to be seeing right now that maybe I'm not seeing. Get into a position of humility and being humble, because the other of this needs to be this way and this should be working like this from now, and why isn't it this and why isn't it that? Well, now you're being a Karen of your own life. No offense to my Karen listeners, but we all know what that means. Now you're being a Karen of your own life. You're being a Karen to God. You're being a Karen to the universe. How do you think that's going to work out for you? Not good, right? That energy is not attractive whatsoever. It is so repelling and gross, which is why everything feels so hard. And you're only a few minutes away from shifting this. So don't start building a case. That's going to be hard to shift out of it now, because that's not true. You can go listen right now to your season of abundance. There's a bunch of other episodes on this podcast. You can even do a really fun exercise that I had a couple listeners tell me they do, which they'll go to like their preferred platform to listen. So let's say it's Apple. They'll go to the show. They'll click on like see all episodes. They'll close their eyes and swipe their finger and then swipe up. So it's all scrolling, and then they'll put their finger down, and whatever episode catches their eye immediately or their finger lands on, that's what they know they're supposed to listen to, basically allowing the universe to pick the episode they're supposed to listen to at that very minute on that given day. I do this with books. I'll pick up a book and I'll let the universe pick, God pick, and I just open to any page and trust that I'm supposed to read that. And it's unbelievable how I end up reading exactly what I'm supposed to at any given time. So do that exercise with the podcast. You can shift out of this. If I was able to shift out of where I've been at this week, I promise you can. Go leave a 5-star written review of the show on Apple. This really means so much to me and all of us who work on the show. And since this is free, that's all I'm asking for you to do in return. And when we give ourselves of abundance, right, we share our gratitude and be of service to another, especially when we're in a state where we feel like nothing is working or we're being down on ourselves. Being in a place of service will automatically lift your mood and lift your vibration, because it always feels good to acknowledge that someone else has helped them. So go write this review. And if you want people, by the way, to leave you testimonials and leave you reviews and be signing up for things with you and comment on your posts and DM you, you got to check yourself and see how regularly you're doing the same for those people who you respect, you admire, and you learn so much from. All right, go do that. Leave your name or Instagram handle in the review if you want me to shout out your review on the show, or on social media, come over and say hi. DM me on Instagram at ProjectME with Tiffany. It is me in my DMs. It's not a bot. It's not someone from my team. It's me. I spend a couple hours every single day in my DMs chatting with you guys, answering questions, getting to know you better, because I am honored and privileged to be your coach, your guide, your mentor into making a crap ton of money, doing what you love online, and being highly paid for it so you can be living the lifestyle that feels so damn good to you simply for being you. Wishing you great health, wealth, and worth as always. Love you. If you enjoyed this podcast, please write a 5-star review on iTunes. Not only will this make me super happy, but it will allow more listeners to find our special show. Simply help me help others.